Hi. Okay, if you're one of those people who only stays on a video for 8 seconds because that's how long your attention span is, listen up. If your friend, your coworker, or some stranger that you just met is trying to introduce you to their business mentor for a business opportunity and you came to the internet because your spidey senses were going off and you wanted to see if it was legit, it's not, and you're probably being recruited into a cult. So if that answers your question, you're welcome. And if you want to learn more, then keep watching. Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about my journey to sustainable health and meaningful success. If you're coming back and you've already subscribed, welcome back. Y'all are my people and I love you so much. If you've recently subscribed, welcome to the squad. We're glad to have you. And if you're new, I hope you consider subscribing by the end of this video. Disclaimer, I was not planning on filming today, so we're in a different set. You might hear the television in the other room and I've already had wine, so without further ado, let's get into it. I have made a lot of videos about my experience in Amway Ltd. It's a multi-level marketing company, aka MLM. So if you have not heard my story, this might not be like the introductory video you will want to watch, but you can start here and then explore topics that interest you further. This video is mainly about when a friend or a stranger or a coworker approaches you and they want to introduce you to their business mentor because they're having an excellent opportunity to learn from them, and their mentor is a person in their 30s or retired in their 20s, and now they're financially independent and they're teaching them to do the same thing, and so they want to get you the hookup to potentially learn from their mentor as well. And there's not any information presented in the beginning. And if you haven't gone through any sort of selection process or interview process, you haven't met the mentor yet, you probably are thinking, what the hell am I getting myself into? Who is this mentor and what is it that they know that I don't know, and why can't I learn any information beforehand? And then as you go through the interview process, you might talk to them, meet face to face, and you might even have several meetings. You might know this person. If you've just met them, you might know them for like months until they finally kind of start bringing up this topic to you. You might really genuinely think that you're building a friendship, and then they start sneaking in the idea of their business mentor. And then eventually, after kind of learning a little bit more about you, they might introduce you to a couple of different books, and I've made videos on my channel about both of them. So if they've introduced you to Robert Kiyosaki's Business of the 21st Century, I've done 2 whole videos dedicated to this book and why this book is one that they present to you. Or Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. It's actually a pretty commonly known book in just general business and success, but they particularly give you this book, and I've also done a review of this book on my channel. So beyond that, they might introduce you to a couple more people or invite you to a meeting, a bigger meeting, maybe in a hotel conference room, maybe on Zoom. I know especially with 2020 and everything, people have switched a lot of their meetings to virtual meetings. So it might look completely differently, but the theme stays the same. You're not really learning all of the information at once, and people are just kind of like gradually introducing you to these ideas. So recently, the book that I've been obsessed about, and I've even recently talked about this in my last video about anti-MLM, which was The Bite Model by Stephen Hassan. It's in the book Freedom of Mind, and it's about helping loved ones leave controlling people, cults, and beliefs. And I know that the word cult is really, it sets off a lot of alarms in our minds. I totally get that. And you might think, well, that's a little bit extreme. Maybe this isn't exactly what I'm thinking about. But hear me out, okay? The Bite Model is what classifies certain organizations as cults. And it's BITE, behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotion control. So what I want to focus on specifically today is the information control, because before you even join a cult, you may already be under the social influence of the cult organization and the way that they indoctrinate their members. So very, very important, okay? So this is from page 29, and it's where they're explaining more about information control. And if you want to know how my experience in Amway and multi-level marketing checked all of the boxes for every single category of the BITE model, that was in my last video, so check that out. But information control. Information control begins during recruitment. So you don't have to have already joined to be already under this influence. When cults withhold or distort information. Very often, a person does not suspect he is being recruited. Perhaps a friend or relative wants to share some incredible insights or experiences. Does this sound familiar? The craziest thing happened to me. I've been offered this opportunity to work under this business mentor, or my friend introduced me to this person, and now I'm going to be retiring in the next 2 to 5 years. Insane. If the recruiter is a stranger, more often than not, the person believes he has made a new friend. Oh, the betrayal. So bitter. In reality, friendships don't form overnight. They take time to develop, with each person gradually sharing information in a balanced way. Cult recruiters are skilled at drawing out information without revealing much about themselves or the group. That's key. If you want to learn more information about this mentor and people, the person who's recruiting you or the person who's trying to introduce you to their mentor, just keep saying like, oh, you'll just have to wait and meet him, or I don't really know all of the details, but my mentor will explain everything, or my friend will explain everything. They might not use the buzzword mentor, but they might use something along those lines. So they'll just explain everything. Just if you can have the patience and the trust in order to build this relationship, then maybe we could have a great working relationship if you're able to just trust that all of the information will be given to you in due time. As soon as you hear anything to that extent, do not give information about yourself if they are not reciprocating information that satisfies your curiosity. Because the more information they learn about you, the more they are able to take your personal experiences or desires or your internal psyche and be able to use that against you, or use your deepest desires to entice you more into this group without actually like revealing any information in a time that they don't want to reveal that information, if that makes sense. By compartmentalizing information, cults keep members from seeing the big picture. People are given only the information that they are ready for, or as much as they need to know. Recruits who ask questions are told that they are not mature enough yet to know the whole truth. Insider doctrines are reserved for people who are thoroughly indoctrinated. In this way, any assessment is delayed until the recruit's critical judgment is impaired. So they are only going to reveal certain bits of information incrementally when you're ready for it, which means that you have shown a vulnerability or a susceptibility to their recruitment tactics, that you're buying it hook, line, and sinker, and that you're going along with it. And in that way, then they'll reveal the next portion of information. And if that doesn't scare you off, then it's the next portion of information. By the time that they get to the big aha moment, you've already been in a selection process with them for weeks, if not months, and have had a developing relationship with these people for possibly even longer. So by the time that you're actually like fully learning the deeper details of this group, you're already in, basically. Like at that point, they try to introduce that information at such an increment that by the time it's a question of yes or no, will you join us, they have no doubt in their mind that you will say yes. In fact, they might even take it so far as to make you beg for the opportunity to be in this business or to have an offer of mentorship or an offer of partnership. And they might actually try to make that seem even more exclusive and even more desirable. So to the point where when you actually learn all of the information, like, yes, you will eventually learn all the information, but it's at a time where you're already in. There's no question about it. So I'm like sweating here. Information control may involve blocking critical or negative points of view. Some cults forbid members to have access to non-cult materials such as newspapers, magazines, television, radio, and the internet, while others may have more subtle ways of controlling information. Some encourage members to use software that would automatically block access to internet sites run by former members and critics. Now, you might not have that kind of software implemented on your devices. You might not have complete isolation from any external sources. But if anybody ever says that Googling them will only lead you to negative information and you can find negative information about anything, even Mother Teresa has negative stuff on the internet about her, or, basically that everybody who has said anything negative about the organization are simply people who have been in the business, but they were quitters, they were losers, and now they only have time to do what I do basically and tear down the organization because they were a failure. And in that way, they stop you or they attempt to influence you to not research anything outside of what they are giving you. So that is why it's presented as such a privilege or such a, rite of passage that by the time that they're giving you this book, this is the information that you need to learn from. And if you will trust them to educate you, that you'll be able to make an informed decision by the end, while they're also discouraging you to ask family members or friends or do any outside research, Googling or watching YouTube videos like this one. They might try to discourage you from seeking outside information, even if they don't have those means of controlling, legit stopping you from accessing that. They might try to influence you not to. Members spy on one another and report improper activities or comments, such as criticism of the leader, doctrine, or organization. This information, as well as anything divulged by members during confession, may be used to manipulate them. Some cults wiretap telephones and intercept letters to increase their control. A legitimate organization allows people the freedom to think for themselves, read whatever they like, and talk to whomever they choose, whereas a destructive influence group attempts to do the thinking for you. Now, I know that some of these concepts just sound way out there. They sound like really extremist, really tinfoil hat, conspiracy, that they're trying to control and wiretap you and have people spy on you. However, I will say this, that when you are in a group setting, especially in a multi-level marketing company, and like I said, my experience is in Amway Ltd. You may find this in other multi-level marketing companies as well, that when you're in a group setting, they have very strict codes of no negativity, that you're only speaking positive, you're only speaking winning words, you're only, being positive focused and ambition focused, and you're not going to be negative. Well, in those settings, especially, I'm just going to speak from my point of view or my experience. In those settings, if we encountered someone who was being negative or who was questioning what was being asked or what was being told, if they were questioning anything, we had an obligation to tell our upline and just report that. I remember once giving a ride back because I lived in Wisconsin and my group was in Chicago. So another person from Wisconsin who was not in my specific line of sponsorship, but she was a close friend of, I don't know. It was just, I was transporting Crossline, giving her a ride back home, okay? And she was being super negative about a situation. She was just really not understanding what was going on. She was feeling isolated and all of the things that one would normally feel when they are being indoctrinated in a cult, but she was being really honest about that. Well, me, being a good little cult member, then called my upline straight after that and reported everything that she said and said, you know, she was being really upset about this and she was really negative about this and she was questioning this. And I remember my upline platinum saying, thank you for telling this to me. This is a sign of maturity and that we can really trust you. And I remember feeling so much victory in that I had gained the trust of my mentors by ratting out a fellow member of the cult, basically. And as I'm like hearing myself saying this, I'm like, wow, Sarah, you're a shitty person. But you know what? It's like, I take full ownership of that. And, you know, I know that I would not make that decision now. And I probably wouldn't have made that decision before having joined the group. But in the group, that was the decision that I made. And, you know, under someone else's influence or not, it's kind of insane to think of being that culty to the point of telling on someone, like a grown-ass adult woman with children. Like, she's already been married and divorced and all of that, and I'm telling on her to someone who I think is like either her age or younger than her. I don't know. Okay, we've gone on a tangent. We need to rein it back in. All right, so then continuing on, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how we could be influenced. And this is still, we're going from the same book. And you know what? If you're sick of this book already, I'm sorry, because I feel like I'm really processing a lot of experiences and I have like this much more of the book left. So we might be on this for a while. I don't know. Anyway, Robert Cialdini, his 6 universal principles of influence. These are things that the group uses, or Amway specifically at least, uses to recruit and then influence people in the group. And I felt like this was super interesting in how they use these tactics, these 6 universal principles of influence to get someone to sign on to their multi-level marketing company. So again, talking from an Amway, ex-Amway perspective, but if you've been in another multi-level marketing company, let me know if you have a similar experience, because this shit's crazy, okay? So number 1, reciprocation. People are more willing to comply with requests for favors, services, information, concession from those who have provided such things first. For example, according to the American Disabled Veterans Organization, mailing out a simple appeal for donations produced an 18% success rate. But enclosing a small gift, personalized address labels, boosts the success rate to 35%. So, in the way that my multi-level marketing company did this, is they would make you feel like they were sacrificing so much to meet with you. Like they were, and if the mentor themselves didn't say it, it was the person who was like hyping them up and trying to introduce you to them. They're saying like, you know, they're a really busy person and it's going to be like tough to try to fit you into their schedule, but you know, they're willing to take the time to sit down with you. And I hope that you are valuing this opportunity. They're taking time out of their day with their family, or they're taking time out of their day from other clients in order to meet with you. And this is a big deal. So in that way, they're already sacrificing to reciprocate. And then even beyond that, you know, they might actually give you this book and lend it to you and say like, this is something like, if you can read this, like I would be willing to lend you this book. This is my own personal book. And in that way, they are showing an investment and then you kind of feel a little bit more responsibility, or a little bit more, what's the word? English is so hard when you're struggling. You just, you know what I mean? You feel like now you have to, which, by the way, you're a grown-ass person. You don't have to, okay? And I think that people need to be a little bit more rude. People need to be a little bit more loving, but also, like, just personally in my life, I think I probably need to be a little bit ruder to people, because whatever has been happening so far has not really worked out for me. Anyway, let's move on, okay? Number 2, commitment or consistency. People are more willing to be moved in a particular direction if they see it as consistent with an existing or recent commitment. And basically, without reading this whole paragraph, it was like this restaurant owner was having a hard time getting, like, they would be receiving reservations and then people would no call, no show like crazy. And then when people were calling in to make the reservations, instead of saying, I hope you'll call us if your plans change, and they just say, okay. Instead, they changed the questions to, will you call us if you change your plans? And then the person would answer yes. And that small little commitment ended up reducing their no call, no show rates like crazy. Okay, so in that same way, when multi-level marketing companies recruit, they might even get you to make a tiny little commitment, either getting you to show up to a meeting and having you commit to that time, or having you, read a book. This is just a small thing. If you can read this, then we know that you're serious about this, moving forward in our selection process. These are little commitments that we're making to ourselves that are unknowingly, we're kind of investing ourselves even more in the potential for this opportunity. Moving on to number 3, authority. People are more willing to follow the directions or recommendations of a communicator to whom they attribute relevant authority or expertise. One study showed that 3 times as many pedestrians were willing to follow a man into traffic against the red light when he was merely dressed as an authority in a business suit and tie. And I don't know about you, this might be different for different multi-level marketing companies, because for Amway, we were always dressed professionally. And when I stepped out of my workplace and I was going out to, go recruit people and contact people and stalk people in grocery stores and gas stations to try to recruit them, I made sure that I always looked presentable. And in Amway meetings, in these business meetings, we were in full business attire. But in some multi-level marketing companies, you might experience something different. Like if the focus is on fitness, you might have more authority from someone who is dressed as like an athletic trainer and has that same build and presentation as an athletic trainer. And they might actually seem to have more expertise or knowledge of what they're talking about. And that makes you more likely to follow them. So just, again, these are not necessarily I don't know why I say it again. I don't think I've said this. These are not necessarily destructive things in and of themselves. What I'm talking about is in a context where instead of making your own autonomous decisions, you are being influenced, and slowly your own critical thinking and decision-making capacity is diminished because of this undue influence from someone who is just trying to get you to behave in a certain way so that you can give them money, give them time, and basically wreck your life for them, okay? So, but on its own, following someone because they seem like they have more expertise is not inherently a destructive thing, but it can be. Moving on, social validation. People are more willing to take a recommended girl, get yourself together, recommended action if they see evidence that many others, especially similar others, are taking it. One researcher went door to door collecting for charity and carrying a list of others in the area who had already contributed. The longer the list, the more contributions it produced. So This could be in a larger meeting setting. And I know this from my organization that when they switched to Zoom because of social distancing and, quarantine and everything, they were stressing, okay? Like my group was stressing about meeting on Zoom rather than having that face-to-face energy. And part of that is the fact that you have all these like-minded or dressed like you or look like you kind of people who are agreeing with whatever is the major consensus in that group. And basically it's groupthink. It's you're following the crowd. And it's a lot easier to influence someone when they feel like they're surrounded by peers who are making that exact same decision. Then it just kind of feels like you're making the right decision because everybody else has come to the same conclusion. Therefore, if you have some questions or anything like that, it must have been settled in all of these other people's minds. So I'm probably safe to proceed, even if I don't have all the answers. So this social influence is something that they kind of thrive on in the group setting. And they really do try to build that camaraderie so that you feel like there's so many people like you who are doing something that you want to be doing. And then you feel like you have a lot of social validation to back up the things that you hope to accomplish in this group. Whereas it could just be a lot of facade, basically. These kind of social settings are highly curated. And I could say for myself that when we had new guests or new people who were being introduced to the business opportunity, and I had been in it for years, I was still acting as invigorated, as excited, as, like we went to the same weekly meetings every week. And, the information was the same, but we had new guests every week. So I was like, we were laughing at the same jokes that we heard our upline tell every single week, but we were expected to react and be engaging with the same speech every single week because the new guests needed to feel the energy of the room and they needed to feel the excitement. And so this was something, now as I'm saying it again, I'm like, damn girl, who were you? But yeah, that I was totally just in that group think mindset. And I actively knew, but didn't realize how effed up it was, that I was contributing to creating an environment where a newcomer would not be able to suspect that everybody was hearing the same information over and over and over again, but instead acting like this was the first time I was hearing this information and understanding that that was performative for the newcomers. Anyway, we're almost done, okay? Number 5, scarcity. This is big. People find objects and opportunities more attractive to the degree that they are scarce, rare, or dwindling in availability. I'm not going to go into the example because I feel like you get this. If you are feeling like they are only looking for new recruits for a certain amount of time, or they only really take on a few new mentors or mentees every year, they only work with a few new people every year, or they're only trying to fill a few spots in the group, or even you might not even get a seat at the meeting. So let me see if I can confirm whether or not you get a seat in the meeting, and then we'll get you into this meeting and you can learn more information. Like, they try to make everything seem like you are scoring big time with this because this doesn't really happen very often, or they are only doing this for a certain amount of people, or that, someone's time is very limited. The mentor's time is very limited. So you are really scoring big with this meeting. Don't screw it up. All of this scarcity mindset is to build up the importance or the value in your mind to make you feel like you are really winning big, when actually that's just a sales tactic. And that's not to just say that only multi-level marketing companies use this. I feel like there's so many limited time offers and, limited edition kind of stuff that kind of scarcity does build up this, like, I have to have this and I have to have this now kind of mindset. But yeah, that's it. that's a facade, okay? It's not limited, okay? The retired person, your mentor, has all the time in the world because they're not doing anything productive with their lives except for scamming people, okay? And in terms of slots and availability at the meeting, girl, they will kick people out in order to bring newcomers in, okay? So it ain't limited. Lastly, number 6, liking or friendship. People prefer to say yes to those who they know and like. For example, research done on Tupperware home demonstration parties shows that guests are 3 times more likely to purchase products because they like the party's hostess than because they like the products. And this is where I want to end this video. That I think one of the most heartbreaking parts of this whole recruitment process, because you came onto this video, if you're new to my channel, you came onto this video because you're like, my friend is like offering me something that seems too good to be true, but I really like this person. They're either a longtime friend and I want to trust what they say, or they're a stranger and I was really hoping to build friendships because it's fucking hard to find new friends in this day and age, especially as adults. And just like really wanting to believe that it's true when deep down in your gut, you kind of feel like it's too good to be true. And the letdown of feeling like, I thought this person was my friend. I thought this coworker was like being nice to me genuinely. And now it's going to be hella awkward if I say no. And then I still have to see them every day at work. You guys, a lot of you guys on my channel like comment that to me or message me about that all the time. I'm just now kind of really realizing the pattern of the fact that a lot of people talk about multi-level marketing in the way that it destroys the lives of the people in multi-level marketing. And it does, okay? I have a whole like playlist of like 65 videos dedicated to how much this experience was the worst ever. And I really made so many bad decisions in it, to the point where I'm just deconstructing it because I really freaking don't want to go through this again or make the similar mistakes or fall into this kind of influence or toxic relationship like I did with this group. And so, yeah, it's definitely damaging to the people in the group, but something that I'm really, it's like sinking into my soul now, is realizing how much these kind of recruitment tactics are damaging to the people who may not say yes to the opportunity, but are also, because they're saying no to the opportunity, they also feel like they have been let down by someone close to them or someone that they were hoping was a genuine connection. And that is a really sad reality of it, that that yeah, it's gonna be the people who want to build a friendship and a trust and a rapport with you that's gonna break your heart, because some people are building that kind of trust and trying to have you let them into your heart only to exploit you. And I just feel like I need to acknowledge that. I don't really have any like gems of wisdom for that. I can't tell you how to heal from making a bond that you really felt was genuine and then finding that they were just exploiting you for money, that they were wanting to sell you products or have you sell products and join a group because you'd be really good at what I do and you'd be really good at this and you would make a lot of money, and I just really think you're an awesome person and I think you'd be really great at this and I want to offer you this opportunity. Like, that's heartbreaking. It really is. So I feel like I just need to acknowledge that and give a voice to a lot of your guys' pain. I don't think there's really a solution to shitty people. Yeah. my wine brain is like, let's think about this. But no, we're not going to go into the deep dark hole that is my like mass destruction mind of like, well, we could just get rid of them. But no, everybody has a shitty side. Okay. I think that's something that we can acknowledge, that just because someone is capable of doing something really shitty doesn't necessarily mean that they themselves are a shitty person. Also, if they think that it's a justifiable thing that they're not really giving you a lot of information up front and that it will all be introduced to you in due time, it's because they themselves have been through the exact same process and they were able to cognitively wrap their brain around some way of justifying that for themselves. Because like when I was in it, I had that same process of having to read. I read this book and then I went to a meeting, then I went to another meeting and I went to another meeting, and it was the same exact process, but somehow they were able to convince me that that was justified and that they were doing that for my benefit, that they were incrementally introducing me to information and they weren't giving it all up front because I wasn't ready and they were waiting for me to mature. And for some reason I bought that. And so when I was trying to explain that to the people that I was trying to recruit, I was being a shitty person to them, but I also had really wrapped my mind around the fact that these people had already done that to me, and for some reason that was justified. So it's justified that I'm doing that to someone else. So it is tough. It does not lessen the pain of feeling like you just were betrayed by someone that you thought was genuine. It just maybe gives a little bit more perspective on what is actually going on in these interactions. And you know, I hope that you would be able to find a little bit of compassion for the people who are trying to recruit you. Like, do not give them your time. Do not give them any more information about you. Like, you need to keep yourself to yourself at that point, because you do not want them to exploit even more of your personal stuff. Like, you don't want them talking to you about how much, like, oh, you have a kid. Wouldn't it be nice for you to be able to stay at home and work from home and be able to be home with them, and then make you feel like you're a bad parent if you don't want that, or if you don't think that this opportunity will get you there. You know, just stop telling them information about yourself. But at the same time, also just know that they are also under some social influence. They are being brainwashed. They are under mind control. That it took these very simple steps, these very enticing, you know, steps of influence and control, that they're under that same kind of voodoo, hypnotism kind of stuff. So anyway, I love you guys so much. I hope that this was educational. I hope that I wasn't like too off the rails. And that, you know, you still got the genuine essence of Sarah Girl. Continue watching my videos if you feel like you now have to just really explore every single aspect of this opportunity. I know that from this video, it definitely opens up a lot of avenues of questions. And maybe I raised a lot more questions in your mind than really answered them. So I hope that you continue to do your research and don't take no for an answer when it comes to getting the full scoop. You want to have the full information. You want the big picture. You do not want them to breadcrumb you into a situation where all of a sudden you're in it and you're fully brainwashed and you don't even know how it happened. Anyway, okay, I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great and awesome day. Okay, bye.